Good morning, Internet land. We're just going to give it a moment for Instagram to catch up to the live streaming software, but we're not going to worry about it because worry is what we're here to talk about today. So we're just going to, there it is. Boom. Okay. 5 more seconds. All right. We are live everywhere. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of DIY Wellness. I am your host, Brian Hogan, a life coach, filmmaker, and clinical therapist. On this show, we explore tools and ideas that help you improve your quality of life and well-being. So take what resonates and toss the rest. Today, we're going to talk about worrying constructively on purpose. You're probably all pretty familiar with worry and what it means to worry, but what if that skill that you've mastered that causes anxiety could actually also be used for peace? What if worrying wasn't really ever the problem, but the problem is the direction in which we rehearse? We all know how to worry. We've been rehearsing disaster since childhood, so we absolutely know how to do this. But the thing is, worry isn't the enemy. What if actually worry is a lost art? Because it is. It's a creative power. We forgot how to aim in the right direction. So today we're going to explore a concept from a book by Dr. Maxwell Maltz called Psychocybernetics from the 50s or the 60s. The idea that he talks about is worrying constructively. And we're going to learn how to use the exact same mental mechanism that we use for stress and turn it toward imagining things going right. We're not trying to eliminate worry. We're going to reclaim it as a creative act. So this episode reinterprets the psychocybernetics exercise through trauma-informed narrative and somatic lenses. So I'm going to show you today how the same neurological choreography of worry can actually be repurposed to imagine positive embodied outcomes. It is a lost art because modern wellness cultures tell us to stop worrying rather than to worry wisely, to transmute it. We don't want to repress it. Repressing it doesn't work. I mean, I think we're all pretty clear on that at this point in our lives. So what is exactly this 3-stage pattern of worry that we all do, that we're all experts at? It's the anatomy of worry. It's this, right? We don't just wake up and start immediately going into doomsday scenarios. I mean, we can now sometimes do that, immediately go into a doomsday scenario. But if we do, it's related to something that has gone through these 3 definite stages for a long time. And so we're so well rehearsed that we can skip through stages 1 and 2 really fast and just end up in stage 3, which is the whole like doomsday scenario thing. So this is what happens in our brains and in our consciousness when we decide to worry, or when we end up worrying, rather. Let's put it that way. So the first thing that happens, it's like a step we take where we suppose this doesn't go my way. What if? It's like a what if. So step 1 is like a what if, just a what if question. Oh, what if this doesn't go well? What if they reject me? What if the date is horrible? What if this is a waste of my time? What if I don't get that promotion? What if it turns out I am worthless? What if my husband leaves me? What if my boss fires me? What if? That's step 1. And we do that. We just have the what ifs. And that's how our brain naturally works. It's curious. We use our curiosity. Curiosity is one of the 6 basic emotions now. There used to be 5, and researchers have now discovered and decided to classify curiosity as its own 6th basic primary emotion. They call it interest. And that's because we are driven by our curiosity, as in worry. What if? That's us being curious in our imagination. But what we are trained by culture to be curious about is, what if it goes terribly? What if it's awful? Because we think that's logically a good, sound way to use our what if mechanism, because, well, if we imagine all the worst case scenarios, we can then mitigate them. So it all seems very logical on the face of it. Of course, we should ask what if questions. Of course. But in your life, it doesn't actually bear itself out, where you ask a bunch of what if questions and then you go about joyfully and in a jolly way solving all of the what if problems that are probably never going to come about anyway. That's not what happens. What happens after we do the what if, which is step 1, we go further down the pattern of worry, which is a normal human biological pattern. And we go down it and we go to step 2, which is, well, it is possible it could happen. So we go from what if to, well, it's possible. So we don't just worry to the doomsday scenario right off the bat. We coax our way in to this anxiety loop through curiosity. We use our curiosity to imagine the worst. And we've been trained to do this since childhood, all of our lives, and culture teaches us to do it too. And so we imagine the worst, and then so we're what if, and then, well, it's possible. So we've now coaxed our way into, like, it's not just a hypothetical, it is possible. So now there's another layer of anxiety that comes. Yes, what if? Oh my gosh. But now it's, oh, so it's possible too. Ooh, my God. That's so we're starting to get more and more anxiety. Step one, what if? Step two, it's possible. It is possible. It absolutely actually could happen. And then the third step that we do to continue honoring our curiosity, even though we're doing it in the wrong direction, is we go, well, gosh, what would that be like if it did happen? And so now we go from what if, I suppose it could happen, to, well, it's definitely possible it could happen, to now imagining deeply in great detail, what would that be like? So we imagine what it might smell like, what it might feel like, what it might look like, what it might sound like, what all of the details of it going wrong could possibly be. And then we imagine one in great detail, and then we go, well, but it also could go this terribly wrong way. And then we imagine the thing that we what ifed, and the thing that we supposed, and the thing that we decided was maybe possible. Now we've imagined a doomsday scenario. And then we're not satisfied with that, because worrying, once you're done worrying, it's not like you're satisfied, you're worried. And so your brain needs to do something else. And so it does step three all over again, but it creates a different doomsday scenario, which is oftentimes worse. So we go from what if slash I suppose, step one, to step two, well, it's definitely possible. I'm not doing that. That's whatever. So step one, what if? Step two, it's absolutely possible. Step three, what would that be like? And then step three keeps going again and again and again with different doomsday scenarios of what that could be like that continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So what you want to take from this is that worry is a phenomenon, a natural phenomenon born of our curiosity, but it's been hijacked by culture and sent towards fear. It's just structured imagination. Our worrying is a story we tell in three predictable stages. So it's not random panic, it's actually sophisticated rehearsal. Our mind's creative studio for anticipating the future. And so, the brain doesn't actually care whether the thing that you picture is doom or delight. Your brain just goes about trying to make it real. So when we worry and we picture all these doomsday scenarios, our brain is like, as a goal striving mechanism, it's trying to make those things happen. And so that's where we get words like self-fulfilling prophecy and self-sabotage, because we are in essence contributing to the actualization of doomsday scenarios when we mentally rehearse and worry in this way. So the question here isn't, how do I stop worrying? Because you can't, because you're curious, and curiosity is a fundamental basic human emotion. But you can worry in a different direction. So the question you want to ask yourself is, what am I rehearsing? Not what am I worrying about? Because worrying about is just a form of rehearsing. It's the negative form. And we want to go to the positive form, which is worrying constructively, or creative imagination. So the thing to notice here is, like, you hear in self-help circles, like, let's just ask the question, what if all goes right, instead of what if all goes wrong, or let's just have a positive attitude. But the thing is, those questions, in absence of taking your mind gently through the stages, it won't work, because you're going to ask what if all goes right, but a whole bunch of parts of you and your years long cultural socialization is going to go, but that's a stupid question, it usually all goes wrong. Even though that's not true, it doesn't usually all go wrong. That's what we've rehearsed, and that's what we believe, and that's what we think. And so we can't just interrupt a decades old or years old thought pattern with, let's be positive, let's turn it all around, what if it all goes right? So what I'm describing here is the coaxing pathway that we all use universally to go from neutral to anxiety. Step one, I suppose. Step two, it's possible. Step three, creative imagination, worse and worse and worse and worse in a spiral until we are worried, frozen, overwhelmed, whatever, chronic illness. That's all we're doing is structured imagination. But we're coaxing our way to these doomsday scenarios that then lock us up and freeze us out. We don't just join them. Maybe now you wake up sometimes and you just join your doomsday scenarios, but that's because you went through this pattern for decades, ruminating. And you still do this pattern on the newer worries. So just notice that this pattern is there. It's there for all of us. And you can't just stop the pattern. But what you can do is use the pattern to your advantage towards something else. So we're coalescing the feelings within us. We're coalescing our imagination. We're not wallpapering over fear with positivity. We're letting possibility take form the same way that anxiety normally takes form, organically, through curiosity. So this is a gentle neuroplasticity thing. You're retraining your nervous system through imagination, not through discipline. The little bit of discipline comes in when you decide, okay, I'm going to try this 3-stage pattern. I'm going to interrupt it here gently, and I'm going to try to coax my way into something different. I'm going to try to rehearse something different. But you can't insist. I'm just going to force myself to ruminate on what if all goes right. You have to coax your way in by going, I suppose it could all go well. And you might not believe that at first. That's why we go in gently, because you're not saying it's going to all go well. Because if you say that and you don't believe it, you're doing this positive self-talk, and that's actually way worse and worse and worse, because you're departing from your authentic truth. You don't feel like it's going to go well. So you can't say, I feel like it's going to go well. Then you're lying to yourself. But you can say, I suppose it could go well. Because that's how worry begins. This is also how structured positive possibility, creative possibility, and creative imagination begins. It begins with supposing. It begins with a hypothetical. It begins with a what if. So you don't say, I'm going to focus on all going well. You just say, what if? What if all goes well? I don't think it will. It's probably not gonna. But what if? I suppose it could. And then you just allow yourself to sit with that till you're okay, just supposing that it could go well. You don't believe it. You're totally skeptical, but you suppose it could. And then you go, well, step 2. Okay, I don't really believe it's going to go well, but I suppose that it could. What if it does? And then step 2, well, it is possible it could go well. That is a possibility. It is actually possible. It's not likely. It's probably not going to happen, but it's a possibility. What if it does go well? After all, it is possible. That's what you do for worry, I suppose. After all, it's possible. So now you're going to train yourself to do that for what if it works out the way I want it to? I suppose it could work out the way I want it to. After all, it is possible it could work out the way I want it to. It has for other people. It's worked out for me in the past, whatever it is. But no force, no force. Just curiosity. What if? I suppose. It's possible. Maybe so. After all. So you're gently bringing your nervous system and your consciousness toward the possibility of things going well. But you're doing that gently, the exact same way that you taught your brain to become an expert at worrying. I suppose, what if it is possible, and then doomsday. So now you're going, I suppose, what if it is possible, and then you might feel more light, more effervescence, more joy. We are meant to enjoy our lives. We are meant to. So forcing your thoughts doesn't work, but coalescing them through genuine curiosity absolutely does work. And so if this is resonating with you, then try it. Like before bed tonight, pick one small thing that you're nervous about for tomorrow. Don't try it on some giant, crazy, big worry, because you're going to come up against the parts of you that think it's just not true. Try something small. And then stage 1, I suppose it could go smoothly. What if it goes smoothly? And then stage 2, well, it is possible. After all, things have gone smoothly before. It has worked for other people before. And then stage 3, this is where the real juice is. What would that be like if it felt easy and joyful? What would that be like if it went well? What would it be like if all of the things that I usually worry about really didn't happen? What would that be like? And then go into as much sensory detail about that, if you can, as you do when you're worrying and when you're wondering, what would it be like if it all went wrong? When you wonder what it would be like if it all went wrong, if you notice, you do not hold yourself back. You do not censor yourself, because you're thinking, well, that would be disingenuous to censor myself from all the worst case scenarios. What am I, some Pollyanna ostrich with my head in the sand? I have to think of all of them. So do the same thing with the creative imagination. Do the same thing here. When you say, what would it be like if everything is joyful or easy? What it would be like if everything goes well? Sit with that. What would it actually be like? How might your heart rate change? How might your relationships be? How might the people in the scenario treat you if your worst fears were not realized? Notice the sensations in your body and go into deep detail with this, as much free for all detail with no holds bar abandon that you would if you were worrying. And then feel how it feels to pre-rehearse safety instead of danger. So you're not controlling outcomes here. This isn't about manifestation in some magical woo way. What you're doing, and I believe that can work too sometimes, but you have to have your nervous system in check. And so what you're doing here is you're re-educating your imagination and you're grounding your nervous system as you do. So take a slow breath, a brief silence after you say, what would that be like? And then really tune in and think about what that might be like. Yeah. So if this resonated with you, I would love it if you share this with someone who tends to overthink, because we can help each other imagine what could go right. We worry masterfully. The skills are already there. All we're doing now is changing the subject from catastrophe to possibility. That's it. It's like, can I change the subject? Just like interject inside your worry brain. When you find yourself worrying, just like pop up and go, can I change the subject? Because I suppose it could all go differently than this. And then let yourself change the subject, but with coaxing, not with force. We don't need to silence the worrier. We need to retrain the worrier. Worrying is just imagination that has forgotten its optimism. So when we worry constructively on purpose, we remember that our nervous system isn't broken. It's creative. And that's what it's doing. It's creating doomsday scenarios in your brain. Now we can allow it to create hallelujah day scenarios in your brain. Okay. What if it all goes right? So remember, everybody, DIY wellness means do it yourself, but it does not mean to do it all by yourself. So I will see you next week. Until then, keep taking personal growth into your own hands. I trust you, humanity. Much love.